power of the heart. Finding your inner wisdom.
The power of the heart.
Finding the power of the
Finding the
heart.
power of the heart.
The power of
Power
the
of the heart. Power of the heart.
让我们寻回心的力量。
The
Power
power
of
of
the
the
heart.
Thank you for joining us today. My name is Yuru Chao. You are tuning in to the Power of the Heart on Da'ai Radio. Recently, we see news that Jinsi Bookstore in Taiwan held a book drive to collect 100,000 sets of Jinsi aphorism for children for the children in the Philippines surviving Typhoon Haiyan, or Yolanda as known locally, to inspire them and to help them heal from the post-disaster trauma. These aphorisms encourage the children to be disciplined so that they can make their parents proud. Soon, students from 61 schools participated in a Jinsi aphorism poster contest. Their entries are all related to the typhoon disaster and how the wisdom they learn from reading Jinsi aphorism helped them overcome the disaster. When it comes to material things, nothing is ever enough. In this children program, Tzu Chi give local children inner riches. When their hearts became abundant with inner riches, they will always be so rich with blessings that they can always give love to others and still never be lacking themselves. Such is the power of inner riches. In our program today, we'll begin with a reading of Dharma Master Cheng Yan's teaching on life economics about seeing a scenery with each person's heart that's prettier than any scenery outside. This reading is provided by Mr. Colin Lagerton. Then, after a short break, we'll discuss this teaching with Miss Susan Wang.
You are listening to The Power of the Heart on Da'ai Radio.
Section 2. Between Near and Far. Many people enjoy traveling all over the world to see beautiful landscapes, historical sites, and exotic places. Although I have never set foot outside Taiwan, people often tell me of the wondrous places around the world. One day, someone told me that the largest and most beautiful waterfall in the world is Niagara Falls, and that its crashing waters and majestic beauty were worth seeing in person. I said, "You have to travel all the way to the border of the United States and Canada to see it, but we can see the same thing right here at Jingsa Abode. There is a big rock with a hole in our yard. We placed some small stones in the hole to create tiers. Then we channeled water to come down from the top of the rock through the tiers of stones into an urn below the rock. We can hear the babbling and gurgling sounds of water as it flows down. A staff member took a photograph of it. Zooming in, our small waterfall appears as magnificent as a big waterfall. Without getting on an airplane or spending so much time, we can see this beautiful scene right here in our own yard. Because we use our hearts to see and feel, when our hearts are beautiful, whatever we see will be beautiful. The scenery within each person's heart is prettier than any scenery outside. Traveling overseas is a complicated process. One must rely on many modes of transportation to arrive at the destination. Even when the landscapes are breathtaking, how long can you stay there to admire them? You still need to return home. No matter how beautiful the view, it is temporary. You cannot enjoy it for long. The distance of thoughts. When the Buddha was traveling through the land of Shravasti, he told his disciples, "There are a myriad of phenomena in this world, yet none can change faster than the mind. There is also nothing that the mind cannot imitate. For this reason, we must take good care of our minds. As soon as a bad thought arises, it must be suppressed immediately and carefully. If we keep close watch over our own minds, then the principle of all things lies within." Many people have seen the peony flower. If you ask them what a peony looks like, the image of the flower will appear in their minds right away. Even if it is not the season for peony, the flowers will bloom in their minds. Is this not an example of the fast transformation of our minds? Or if you ask people how to write the number 1, everyone can produce it very quickly, although not everyone can write it neatly. Those who can write it properly must have taken the time to practice writing it. However, our minds can immediately produce a beautifully written 1. Even when it comes to complicated strokes, our minds can still imitate or manifest the writing quickly. In addition, our thoughts can transform quickly. No matter how far the physical distance, our minds can arrive at any location instantly. Argentina is very far from Taiwan. It takes more than 30 hours to fly there. But as soon as the country is mentioned, images of my Argentinian disciples doing volunteer work immediately appear in my mind. I have never been to Argentina, but I have seen the pictures and video clips of their Sigi activities, so there are images of Argentina in my mind. Intangible thoughts can overcome tangible distances. A few years ago, Malaysia experienced its worst flooding in a century. When the local Sigi volunteers called me to report the situation, they told me that the rain was pouring down non-stop. Everyone was worried about the Sigi office being flooded, so they all went to move the objects upstairs. At that time, my physical body was in Taiwan, but my mind had reached Malaysia. I expressed my gratitude to the local volunteers for their vigilance in the disaster relief effort. At the same time, I was worried about whether the disaster area would expand and when the heavy rain would stop. While on the phone with volunteers in Malaysia, I received another call from China's Fujian province. They wondered whether they should distribute relief supplies of food and comforters the following morning as planned, even though the quality of the rice was different from that in the contract. I said to them, "Please discuss this carefully with the team. If you cannot distribute the rice as scheduled, you must inform those coming to receive it. If you decide to distribute it, then you must use your wisdom to tactfully handle the situation." After I hung up the phone, I realized that my consciousness had traveled far, and my mind had shifted quickly. In the course of a few minutes, my mind traveled from Taiwan to Malaysia, and as I picked up the other phone call, it had gone to mainland China. How far can our consciousness expand? I believe it is limitless. Tsuji started from a borrowed space in Puming Temple, and then moved to Jingsa Abode after its construction in 1969. From this location, we gradually expanded our physical space to every corner of Taiwan. Later, we extended gradually overseas and proliferated across all continents. In this world, wherever there are people, there is love. Although I have never been to any of those countries, as long as our hearts and our missions are in unity, I know that Sigi volunteers everywhere are with me every day, and I with them, no matter how far those countries are. The most remote area feels like it is just next door. No matter how far or wide the physical distance, our hearts are always close. Space of the mind. Modern technology enables us to measure the size of the Earth, yet we are still unable to determine the size of the universe. We feel that the Earth we inhabit is enormous. Are humans large? In fact, we are quite insignificant. Nonetheless, the Buddha teaches us that our minds are vast enough to embrace the universe. If our hearts are pure and free of affliction and obstruction, then we will not cause harm or commit evil. The world will be at peace, and the earth will revolve safely along its orbit. Our hearts are the same as the Buddha's. The Buddha's heart is as vast as the universe, but our hearts are filled with limitless desires that create pollution and lead to disasters. When the world is filled with desires, it is in danger. In recent years, global warming and climate anomalies have become serious problems, causing frequent disasters. The Earth's environment has reached a critical condition. Therefore, everyone on Earth needs to do good and create blessings. The accrued love and blessings will form a benevolent atmosphere of harmony to fill the universe and safeguard the Earth like a protective shield. As the universe is immense, Our love must spread far and wide. It is essential that everyone has a big heart and acts with kindness and virtue in order to take the initiative and use our abilities to help others. There are so many suffering people in the world. When one Tzu Chi volunteer sees a person suffering, it is like 1,000 Tzu Chi volunteers have seen it. More people can see more places. Wherever Tzu Chi volunteers are, compassionate eyes will be looking at sentient beings. With everybody helping in concert, no matter how filthy or damaged the environment is, it will become beautiful again. With their boundless love and openness of heart, they cannot bear to see people suffer. They see others as their own family and take care of others' soiled environment as their own. When those who suffer come out of misery and smile, then they feel happy too. If you ask me how long I want to live, I will say I do not know. Yet if you ask, how broad is your loving heart? Then I will reply, my heart can reach to every corner of the world. For instance, for a time there were frequent news reports of conflicts in the Gaza Strip. Even though the United Nations worked hard to mediate, there was no sign of an end to the violence. It was truly worrisome. We have a close affinity with Israel. The famous Israeli singer and musician David Dior has come to Taiwan on charity concert tours for Tzu Chi. He has even translated some Tzu Chi songs into English and Hebrew. In 2008, Tzu Chi took on the relief effort to help disaster victims from the cyclone in Myanmar and the earthquake in Sichuan. To lighten Tzu Chi's load, David volunteered to give a charity concert tour in the United States, and he donated all the proceeds to Tzu Chi for disaster relief. David and his band members are all young musicians. They tour around the world to perform concerts. David usually wears a large beard, but he shaves it off each time he comes to see me to show his respect. He later took refuge with me as my disciple, and has even placed a prayer for my health in the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. During that period of violence and unrest, I was very concerned about the situation in the Middle East. Whenever I went to Taipei, Raphael Gamzu, the Israeli representative to Taiwan, would come to tell me that everything was fine. Mr. Gamzu knew that I was worried about David's well-being, so he relayed a message his wife sent from Israel, which said that a recent bombing was still 15 miles from their home, so he asked me not to worry. I thought to myself that 15 miles is not that far. It was still quite dangerous, and I heard that even internationally banned white phosphorus bombs were used. In the footage on TV, I saw many children in panic and mothers fleeing with children in their arms. The suffering was unspeakable. Not long after that, David called to tell me that he decided to move from Gaza to the countryside. He felt deeply for those panicking children, so he led them in singing to ease their fear and worry. Israel is far from Taiwan, but there is no distance between caring hearts, especially with today's technology. Da'ai TV has allowed us to see happenings from around the world and to care about worldly affairs. From the news media, for example, we learned that the provinces of Inner Mongolia, Qinghai, and Heilongjiang in northern China had suffered heavy snows in the early fall. These snows toppled trees and power lines and damaged houses. They made us realize that abnormal climate change is really happening. On Da'ai television, I also saw Tzu Chi volunteers in Islamic countries using their free time on holidays to do Tzu Chi work. Malaysian volunteers distributed food and daily necessities to the poor during Eid al-Fitr, a holiday much like the Chinese Lunar New Year, so that the poor may enjoy a bountiful holiday. The majority of Jordanians are Muslims as well. There are only a few Tzu Chi volunteers there, but they have been caring for the Bedouins in the desert for a long time. In order to give a few hundred Bedouin families a happy Eid al-Fitr, they drove through dust and wind for 8 hours round trip to deliver relief goods. They also passed out school supplies and school bags to the children to facilitate their studies. No matter where they are, Tzu Chi volunteers around the globe make good use of their time. They diligently put Buddhism into action and mindfully walk the Bodhisattva path. They enter deeply into their communities to find out exactly what is needed. Tzu Chi volunteers make practical contributions with diligence and love. Their hearts are broad and open, so the space that their love inhabits is naturally broadened.
Hello everyone, my name is Owen Polivka. My favorite Jingshi aphorism is, it feels wonderful to be loved, and feels even better to love. May wisdom and inspiration be with you always.
Finding your inner wisdom, finding the power of the heart.
Our special guest today is Miss Susan Wang. She was born and raised in Taiwan. In high school, she went to study in Sydney, Australia, and continued her education until she graduated with a master's degree in educational psychology. After she graduated, she worked in retail and volunteered at the same time. She likes books a lot, and that is why she is the regional director for Jingsi Bookstore and Cafe in northern China now, with one store in Beijing already open and several others coming soon. Welcome to the program, Susan. Thank you for joining us.
Hi everyone, I'm Susan.
So, Susan, how did you get to know about Tzu Chi?
About 20 years ago, I was studying in Sydney, Australia, and I remember my family's friend, my dad's friend. He just moved to Sydney and lived very close to my house, and the wife. She has many books about Tzu Chi, volunteer stories, and also master's teachings. And then they were asking for a tutor to help their 3 children to do the homework at that time. So they asked me if I could help. So that's how I got to know Tzu Chi, because I was tutoring the 3 children, and at the same time I borrowed many of her books to read about Tzu Chi and about master's teaching.
And that is why you like books.
Yes, that's right.
And you also find very similar affinity with Master Zheng Yan.
Yes, and also actually, because at that time the books only did not have any picture about the master, so I thought the master was like a male spiritual master. But there was, after many years, I saw the picture of the master. I was very surprised that our master was very beautiful, and wasn't a male master.
So master as female figure, it really kind of shake you up and change your view about how you see master, because your mental picture of Dharma Master Zheng Yan did not match what you saw in the picture. Mm-hmm. And you also find that special connection with Dharma Master Zheng Yan because she find her teacher when she went to purchase books. As you find your teacher when you went to read about her.
That's right.
So for 20 years that you walk in the Tzu Chi path very diligently and never leave Tzu Chi because of this special affinity. And we often say in Buddhism, we cherish our affinity in this lifetime because this is accumulation from many, many lifetimes that we are sure it doesn't just start this lifetime. There must be something in the past. We may be studying with the same master already, and this lifetime we finally find her, and we wanted to stay close and don't leave her or don't fail to see her again by our own mistake.
Yes.
So why do you like Tzu Chi so much that you decide to volunteer with Tzu Chi full-time right now? There are many organizations out there. They are doing great work, charity work, but you choose Tzu Chi to be a full-time volunteer, and you take a responsibility to be a regional director for Jingsi Bookstore and Cafe in China. That's a great challenge.
Actually, I found that Master's teachings and city volunteer stories changed me and inspired me a lot.
I see that in your first volunteer assignment, you already come in touch with the universal truths of life, the cycle of life, and that keep you thinking. So that is why for 20 years you stay committed on the Tzu Chi path, because Dharma Master Cheng Yen's teaching help us to see insight into life that solve a lot of our questions. But right now, what are you doing in Tzu Chi?
Actually, my volunteer work, I could say that it's divided by like the two major parts. One was that when I graduated from the University of Sydney, I came back to Taiwan, and at that time I did not know any Tzu Chi volunteers. So I went to the Taipei Tzu Chi main office in Zhongxiaodonglu there to ask for a volunteer's contact number because I wanted to donate, make a donation. And then, and so at that time, I joined many different type of Tzu Chi volunteer work, but it didn't go very smooth. But eventually, some people introduced me to join a foreign language team, and then that was when I started to be very happy doing volunteer work. Yeah, and because the foreign language team friends, they were all like me, like they maybe came back from United States or Australia or many other countries, and they all maybe speak English or Japanese, and we were about the same age. And then I remember very clearly that once I was, I think it was in 1998, we were collecting the donations for Turkey. They had a very big earthquake, and when I was holding that donation box and telling people maybe we can help people for the earthquake or something, I remember there was this guy, he just walked close to me and shouted so loud to me and saying that, why are you doing this? We don't even know where Turkey is, and then maybe there are still many people in Taiwan that need help. Why are you doing such stupid things? And then he shouted so loud, and I could feel it almost spit on my face. I was very upset that day, of course, and I was thinking, why are people making on our people so difficult when you're seeing people doing something good? But that didn't stop me from doing other volunteering work. But I was just thinking that maybe I should recruit more volunteers so that many people can know what the master is doing and what Tzu Chi is really doing. For Tzu Chi volunteers, really, we found that the beautiful scenery is when you see, maybe when you're working in a hospital, when you see the patient smile, or when you see the people get the people they really needed, maybe materials or food, or when they really get the things they needed, the basic needs they needed, and the smile and the feeling that they give you. I think that's more than anything else in the world.
And I think you'll really love to see readers in the bookstore, especially the one in Beijing, who are smiling when they're reading Master's book. Mm-hmm. That will make you really happy, right?
Yes, and I remember once there was this Beijing guy. He came to the bookstore, and then he asked me, "How did you do that?" And I was so. I was very curious. I say, "I'm sorry, sir, but I didn't get it. Well, I don't understand. What are you asking for? Is that a book name or something?" And then he say, "No." He say, I never been to this bookstore. This is the first time I came to this big bookstore. But I've been living in Beijing for so many years. But I never had these feelings, because in Beijing, maybe it's a big city, many people and the traffic. But I feel chaos in my heart everywhere I go, especially it's traffic time. But as soon as I walk into the bookstore, I feel so peaceful, calm. and I can, no worries, I can think about my future or something. So he asked us, how do you do that? And he said that the people working in the bookstores, he can see that we didn't have much words, but we communicate maybe through eyes or through our gestures, or we just know each other. So he say this is like a paradise in Beijing. That's why he say he's gonna invite more friends to come to the bookstore. And actually, I asked him what he was doing, and he said actually he was the bodyguard of a famous movie star in China. And he say after he quit that job, he became a salesperson for wine. And yeah, there was a lot of unhappiness things happening in the company. So yeah, so now he's our volunteer, Beijing volunteer now. So I was very happy.
So everyone, if you are listening, you are cordially invited to visit our bookstore in Beijing when you stop by Beijing. And our Jingsi bookstore will always open our door for you to come and enjoy this little piece of paradise in Beijing. And you will not feel the chaos of Beijing, but you will feel the peace in your heart. Thank you, Susan, for your time.
Thank you.
Our time is up today. We'll be listening to this book, Life Economics, over the next several episodes. Please join us next time to continue our discussion on life economics. If you want to read this book we're talking about, you can find a copy of this book in any Jingsi bookstore and cafe, especially the one in Beijing. For more teaching on Dharma Master Zheng Yan, please tune in next time to our program. Goodbye and have a great day.
Angels in blue, crossing horizons. My timeless wish is to fly with you. Always, always, every location. Long to live life like you do. Shines moonlight, lighting my path home. Great blue seas and mountains between and me. My heart lights with your glow, beaming the spirit of